Great Aunt Pat reads Geronimo Stilton Paws Off, Cheddarface, Part 2. Stilton, old pal. I was miserable. Then I noticed the light blinking on my answering machine. I raced over to it. Maybe I had some happy messages. Maybe my favorite nephew had called, or perhaps my sweet Granny One Whisker. Or maybe I'd won that free vacation to the Hamster Islands. I'd bought a raffle ticket just last week at the shop in Nibble. Maybe I was about to get lucky. Excited, I pressed the button on my machine, but I was wrong about the messages. They weren't happy at all. They were horrifying. The first message was from some rodent named Stuart Swingtail. He said he was a singer at the Sleazy Fur Dance Factory. I frowned. I'd never been there. Only sewer rats hung out at the Sleazy Fur. So what was this swingtail mouse calling me for? Hey, Stilton, old pal. You were really kicking up those paws Saturday night, he squeaked. By the way, you owe me 50 schmackers. Don't forget, pal. See you next week at the factory. The second message was from Dr. Edward S. Smugrat III. He was a very rich and stuck-up mouse. He had the best golf clubs, the best golf shoes, the best golf shirts. Still, he was an awful golfer. I guess it's true what they say, clothes do not make the mouse. Stilton, what do you think you were trying to pull? Smugrat shrieked. I know you swiped my Wat King credit card. I just got the bill for your diner with 57 friends at the golf club. You will be hearing from my lawyer. After that came a message from Mr. Vander Ratten. He owned an antique store called Treasured Crumbs. The antiques in his place were more expensive than my cousin Brainy Paw's college tuition. Still, Mr. Vander Ratten said that he had purchased a solid gold cheese holder just yesterday. I gave you the cheese holder on good faith, he said. I know you are a respectable newspaper mouse, but you will need to come in and settle your bill. Finally, there was a message from my sister's friend, Swissita Tenderfur. Geronimo, what was up with you yesterday? She sniffed. I know you saw me at the movies. I was sitting 2 seats away. Why didn't you say hello? You were so rude. I slumped onto my couch. Could this day get any worse? I felt like a young mouse in a squeaking school who'd just been scolded by all the teachers. I didn't know what to make of it. Unbelievable. I thought you hated bikes. I decided to call my sister Thea. She is a special correspondent for my newspaper, the Rodents Gazette. Thea loves to pick on me, and she loves to give me advice. Hello, it's me, I said when she picked up the phone. Immediately, my sister started giggling. Jerry, she chuckled, you were looking pretty sharp yesterday on that motorcycle. I saw you on the corner of Blue Cheese Avenue and Furline Drive. That was some wheelie you pulled. Where did you get the cycle? I thought you hated bikes. I sighed. Even my own sister thought she had seen me. But of course it wasn't me on that bike. I hate motorcycles more than the double-decker roller coaster at Scramperton Fair. I told Thea the whole story. She listened carefully. Then she hung up on me. I couldn't believe it. My own sister didn't even want to talk to me. 5 minutes later, the phone rang again. It was Thea. I've made an appointment with you with a psychiatrist. I'll pick you up right away. The psychiatrist's name was Dr. Furry Feelgood. He had on thick glasses and a funny little beard. A sign on his wall read, "Don't worry, keep squeaking." I began to tell him my story. "What do you make of it, doctor?" I finished anxiously. He crossed his paws over his belly. "This looks like a split personality case. A split personality case. Very serious, he concluded. "You don't remember the things you have done. The things you have done, whom you've met. It is as if you were two Geronimo Stiltons. This may take years of therapy. I shook my head. Was he repeating himself? Or was I hearing double two? Who knows? I left the office feeling discouraged. Even Dr. Feelgood couldn't make me feel good. "May I have your autograph?" "Don't worry, big brother," my sister reassured me as we headed back to the office. Just then, a strange mouse approached us. "Are you Geronimo Stilton? May I have your autograph?" he asked. "It's for my nephew. We're going to your show tonight. I love the dance numbers. Where did you get those moves? You're hilarious." My jaw hit the ground. Dance moves? What was he talking about? At that moment, I noticed a poster stuck on the side of a building. Could it be? Holy cheese! It was, yes, it was a picture of me. "Geronimo Stilton, live on stage," the poster read. I'll show you the poster. See that? I didn't know what to make of it. I'm not an entertainer. I'm not even good at public speaking. At that moment, my sister tapped me on the shoulder. "I think we may have figured out how to solve your problem," she said. "How?" I asked. "Tonight, we're going to the theater," she announced. I scratched my head. I love the theater, but I wasn't really in the mood for it tonight. Besides, how would we solve my problem? "You have tickets to the show?" I asked. "Is it a musical? Is it a comedy?" "No, you nincompoop. We're going to see your show," Thea screamed. "Geronimo Stilton live on stage." Identical, just like twin mice. We got to the theater early. It was packed. In an odd way, I was flattered. All these rodents had come to see me, Geronimo Stilton. A drum roll signaled the start of the show. A mouse appeared on the stage. "You all know New Mouse City's most famous publisher, Geronimo Stilton," he began. The crowd clapped. "Mr. Stilton is not just a respectable newspaper mouse, he is also a great performer," the mouse continued. Applause, more applause. "So, please put your paws together and welcome the unique, the amazing, the one and only Geronimo Stilton," he exclaimed. The lights dimmed. A single spotlight lit the stage. Suddenly, a furry rodent jumped out of nowhere. He bowed to the crowd. I gasped. It was me. It wasn't me, it was him. I glanced at my sister and saw the same shocked look on her face. "You are absolutely identical, just like twin mice," she whispered. Meanwhile, the mouse on stage was busy greeting the crowd. He looked so smug, it gave me chills. "You are as sweet as a bowl of cream." The crowd was cheering like mad. I stared at the mouse stage. What did they see in him, I wondered? I'm not an ugly rodent, but I'm no Mel Gibsqueak, the famous movie mouse. The other me threw his hat into the air. Then he began to tap dance. He looked ridiculous. Unbelievable. The other me started singing on stage. You are as sweet as a bowl of cream. You are every road and stream. Thinking of you, I melt with glee. You are just my cup of tea. I snorted. What a silly little song. How could I? I mean, he embarrassed himself like this. I waited for the crowd to start booing, but nothing happened. Instead, the crowd began squeaking with delight. The lady mouse next to me had her paw on her heart. Oh, he's so romantic, she shrieked hysterically. What a mouse, that Stilton. I turned to my sister. I knew Thea wouldn't fall for this trash. She had too much taste. She had too much class. She had her eyes glued to the stage. The other me ended his number with a bow. His female admirers threw him roses. He picked them up one at a time. Then he laid them on his heart. The crowd shrieked with excitement. I didn't know what to make of it. Unbelievable. The heavy yellow curtains came down, and he disappeared behind them with a grin. A few minutes later, he came out again. This time, he was dressed in a funny little skirt made of bananas. He had a pineapple on his head for a hat. Then he began singing and shaking a pair of maracas. Follow my tips, rotate your hips, wiggle your belly just like some jelly. Come take a chance, do a tropical dance. He then performed a couple of dance routines. He did the paw step, the fur fling, and the mouse trot. The crowd was applauding non-stop. I had never seen anything like it. I felt like I was at a Ricky Rodent concert. That mouse was more popular than frozen cheesecake in the summertime. After that, my double started launching into a wild cha-cha-cha cheese step. The whole time he sang this silly song. 1, 2, 3, cha-cha-cha, cheddar-y, cha-cha-cha, melted brie, cha-cha-cha, much like me, cha-cha-cha. Unbelievable. My look-alike changed his outfit one more time. This time, he had a red rose between his teeth. He danced around the stage, blowing kisses to the audience. Ole, 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 he cried. Was he supposed to be a rat bullfighter? I could not get over his act. It was so bad. I could have burst out laughing or crying. After all, what if rodents thought that was me? He was awful, but the crowd loved him. They cheered and clapped as if he were the greatest thing since Larry Labpaw invented spreadable cheese. I didn't know what to make of it. Unbelievable. Next, he came on stage wearing a tuxedo. He sang an aria from an opera. I think it was in Italian, but who knows? Maybe he was just making up some nonsense. I wouldn't put anything past that mouse. Once again, he disappeared behind the curtains. He came back and began to rap. Your fur is so soft, your whiskers so fine. If I grill a cheese sandwich, will you be mine? That was entertainment? I was ready to run squeaking from the theater, and yet it seemed that I was the only unhappy one. The crowd was applauding like mad. They were even dancing on the chairs. It was a never-ending performance. Unbelievable. The next time he came back on stage, he was dressed as a serious actor. He sniffed the air with a grim expression on his snout. Then he began to recite from a play by William Shakespeare, "To gnaw or not to gnaw? That is the question." Finally, he came out dressed as a clown. He had a red cherry taped to his nose. A huge piece of Swiss cheese sat on his head. He told a few jokes. They were very old knock-knock jokes. I'd heard them all before. I thought this time he definitely would be booed. He was so awful. It was pathetic. I looked around the crowd and he was getting a standing ovation. I didn't know what to make of it. Unbelievable. After the show, I was dying to meet this scoundrel, snout to snout. So, Thea and I waited near the actors' dressing rooms. After a while, my look-alike came out. He was whistling. In one paw, he clutched a huge wad of bills. I was so angry I could hardly see straight. This miserable rodent was getting rich off my name. I leapt in front of him. "How dare you pass yourself off as me?" I shrieked at the top of my lungs. Sydney Starfur. "Cheddar cheese chunks!" he cried. Then he raced away down the dark hallway. I ran after him, but he was too fast for me. He had dropped something, though. It was a wallet. Thea plucked it from the floor. "Let's see who this joker really is," she said. She opened the wallet and took out a business card. It read, "Sydney Starfur, professional actor, singing, dancing, voices, and more." Then she pulled out some crumpled up letters. They were from Sally Rasmussen. I gasped. My fur stood on end. Sally Rasmussen was my #1 enemy. She runs the Daily Rat, a terrible newspaper. It's filled with lots of made-up stories. Last week, they had one about a pair of alien mice. It said the mice had landed in New Mouse City. Of course, none of it was true. Still, some rodents like to read the Daily Rat. In fact, it is my newspaper's biggest competition. Now I shook my head. I should have known that rotten Sally Rasmussen was behind all of this. It looked like she had hired Sydney Starfur to pretend he was me. I chewed my whiskers. Sally was not only evil, she was also clever. She must be cooking up some terrible plan. But what? Letter. Sample 1. The Daily Rat, 14 Cream Cheese Court, New Mouse City, Mouse Island, 13131. 2. TCFRA, the Center for Rodent Actors. Dear Sirs, I need an actor who looks exactly like Geronimo Stilton. He is the publisher of the Rodents Gazette. Money is not important, well, sort of. If you can find a match, let me know right now, at once, immediately. Sally Rasmussen. P.S. Don't tell Stilton. Sample letter number 2. The Daily Rat, 14 Cream Cheese Court, New Mouse City, Mouse Island, 13131. To Sydney Starfur. Dear Mr. Starfur, I received your picture. You seem to be Geronimo Stilton's spitting image. You poor ninny. I will pay any amount, sort of, if you will play the part of that moron. Let me know right now at once, immediately. Sally Rasmussen. See, there's the letters. There's the letters. So those are the letters they must have found on the ground. What a big, big mistake. That night, I had a terrible dream. I was on stage singing, dressed in a skirt made of bananas. The next morning, I was so tired I slept right through my alarm. I hurried down the stairs and raced to the diner. I have my breakfast there every morning. The owner, Flip Hot Paws, seemed surprised to see me. "Back for more coffee, Mr. Stilton?" he said. I blinked. "What do you mean?" I asked, confused. But I was so late I didn't wait for an answer. Next, I raced over to the newsstand. I picked up a paper. Bobby Blabbersnout stared at me from behind the counter. Mr. Stilton, you already bought this paper this morning," he squeaked. I shook my head. "That's impossible," I protested. "I just got here. You must be confusing me with another mouse." Bobby frowned. "I never forget a customer," he insisted. "Besides, you were coming here for the past 20 years. I'd recognize your snout anywhere." I didn't have time to argue, so I put down the paper and headed toward my office. When I got there, the door was locked. I knocked. Thea stuck out her snout. When she saw me, her eyes opened wide. "How dare you show up here?" she shrieked. "Well, you can just take your tail somewhere else. The real Geronimo Stilton is already inside." She slammed the door in my snout. I knocked again. "Thea, open the door, please. It's me," I cried. She opened the door again. "Go away, you imposter." Now I was really worried. Even my own sister didn't know me. "But it's me, Thea, your brother," I insisted. "Don't you recognize me?" She gave me a closer look. For a minute, she seemed about to change her mind. I straightened my tie. I picked up my briefcase. I was ready for work. But then, through the half-open door, I saw something horrifying. It was me, him. The fake Stilton sitting behind my desk. "Of course I know which one of you is the real Geronimo," my sister was muttering. When they caught sight of me, my employees began whispering furiously. "That's Mr. Stilton's double," they said to one another. My secretary, Mousella, shook her head. "Geez, Niblets, he doesn't look like him at all," she shrieked. "The real Stilton is this one," she said, pointing to the mouse sitting at my desk. With that, my sister slammed the door in my snout again. "Buzz off, fur face," she shouted, "and don't you dare come back."